end. Yeah.
Everybody else struck
Make a
up on
silly
my face. I didn't think to do that.
No.
I just saw Petey doing it.
Jerry's just
I was
a
never
follower.
prompted.
It's all part.
All
It's
right.
all part of the process. We're all learning. I still don't quite know.
I think there was some collusion going on between the regulars here to show us up.
Yes. All right, so let's get...
Once
Let's get
again,
warmed
hello
up.
and thank you to everybody out there at DiamondClub.tv.
Yes.
Thank you, Chat Rome, for watching, for listening, for tuning in.
All right.
Are you guys sick of me yet? Because I was on last night too. Are you guys sick of me yet?
Yes. All right, so... All right, let's get started. I think we're ready. Fanny Pack. It begins in 3, 2, 1. Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fabulous episode of the Fanny Pack Wrestling Podcast. I'm Petey Ray, your man with no plan. Here with me, as always, is my tag team partner, my buddy, David Jeffrey Majors, a.k.a. DJM. How you doing, DJM?
Buenos tacos, Fanny Pack fans. DJM here, a.k.a. Lightning Mike Blackenbush. The Fanny Pack Podcast is back on the air. Petey, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Smash Wrestling, a little company hailing from Ontario, Canada. No, not the company by Yoshihiro Tajiri over in Japan. The newer one, or I don't know if it's newer, but the one that actually is going on right now from Ontario, Canada. And their event, the recent event, Super Showdown 2. Super Showdown Deuce. Deej, who do we got joining us to talk about this event?
Well, first of all, our returning champion, Mr. Jerry Vin, a.k.a. JVeezy. JV, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for coming back.
I didn't know I was champion, but I'm flattered. Thank you for having me on again.
I called you the returning champion the last time. You're the defending champion.
It's been a while, so I've
just
been out
means
of
you're-
action for a while.
That just means you're a long-time reigning champion, like
Yes.
Johnny Gargano.
Not necessarily defending, but reigning.
Well, then you're Brock Lesnar, which is even better.
Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Also joining us, a writer and contributor to Otaku USA magazine, one of the hosts you will hear on the absolutely fantastic Anime World Order podcast. Please welcome, for the first time, yes, we have somebody brand new on the good ship Fanny Pack. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daryl Surat. Daryl, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome and thank you for inviting me. I've don't really get too much of a chance to talk about professional wrestling, but it is an interest of mine. I've been following Japanese and independent wrestling for several years. Every week, for the last year and change, I pick about 2 hours of independent and Japanese wrestling and sort of compile a playlist for 2 hours and show it to some folks, through extra legal means, but it seems to be doing the greater good just because we live in a world where wrestling and the WWE are kind of one and the same, and people are kind of surprised whenever I say I'm a fan of professional wrestling, but I don't really follow the WWE.
Preach it, Daryl.
And we've got so many great alternatives now on the independent scene in Japan. In fact, as we record this tomorrow, there's going to be a collaborative effort between a bunch of various independent groups for the quote Raw alternative.
Yeah.
As everyone knows, Raw is entirely too long. It is 3 hours, and so the various independents, of which Smash Wrestling is one, have pulled together, put up some free matches to watch, and they're going to post a playlist of things to watch as an alternative to Raw, one of which happens to be a match from the show that we're going to review on this very episode. And it is the match that I had seen prior to recording this episode.
Yeah. So we're talking about Super Showdown Deuce from Smash Wrestling.
Petey, I just want to say, sorry to cut you off, but I think it's safe to say that we found ourselves a kindred spirit here on this episode of Fanny Pack.
Yes.
But, let's jump in and let's talk Smash Wrestling.
All right, let's talk about Smash Wrestling.
Maybe you guys, before we start, since you maybe follow the product a little closer than I have, this is actually the very first Smash show I ever saw. As best I can tell, they only really started doing the whole pay-per-view thing about maybe a year and a half ago, where they were bringing in the sort of quote name independent guys.
Yeah, this is a promotion that's kind of been going on a little while, and it's kind of one of those standby promotions in Canada. And it has a lot of the cool guys you see in Canadian wrestling. This is the first show that I've checked out of Smash Wrestling as well, and I believe JVeezy as well. I don't know about you, DJ, but if you've gotten a chance to see Smash Wrestling or you're familiar with the product.
I was familiar with Smash Wrestling. I have seen a grand total now of 2 shows from them. And I will say that so far I have no real complaints. It was great seeing a lot of the Canadian talent that I like, mixing in with some of the more recognized independent wrestling talent. And also, this promotion is based out of Ontario, not too far from me. And I always like hearing about promotions that are near me. So that's another positive.
They also ran their shows out of a place that also does like a skee ball and like has an arcade, and it's one of those fly zones and like trampoline jumping places, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, you can tell they were slightly affluent because there's a carpeted floor at this event.
Yes.
I always like to use the presence of mats as a sign of wealth and affluence, as well as a ring guardrails. So they're 1 out of 2 here at Smash because there are no guardrails or really
got some amazing lighting going on
between the apron of the ring and where you're seated.
Yes.
Isn't that really part of the independent wrestling experience? Like, if you're going to an indie show, and you're probably going to expect to see a dive or two, I think part of the experience is that there is a possibility that you might end up taking a wrestler home from a dive.
Or you might
ask about that, actually. Like, I actually made a note, and I don't know, more so in this show than the other shows that you've had me on, but you know, there were a lot of people that just, like, they seem to just know when they, I guess, you know, obviously they probably signed a waiver or something, but, like, they know that, you know, you show up at these shows and you might have to just dive out of the way at any moment.
It's on the tickets.
There's no waiver. No, that's not how it works.
It's on the tickets.
Oh, it's on the tickets.
You just kind of know.
Generally speaking, though, I did lend to a coworker some pro wrestling guerrilla shows, and one of his first responses was, "My son and I are amazed. How does everyone know to get out of the way so quickly?" Well, you know, it's usually telegraphed that something terrible is about to occur in your way, and if you know what's good for you, you'll run.
Yeah. Or you just, if somebody else starts running, you just run with them.
If the guy in the ring starts clapping, that's when you know that it might be time to move.
Yeah. Yes. All right, so let's get started with the first contest. It was a #1 contenders multi-man match. We had the handicapped hero Gregory Iron. We had John Greed, Mr. Cherry Bomb Pepper Parks.
Really? Is he Mr. Cherry Bomb?
I thought he was a genetic clone of Carl Anderson.
He is Cherry Bomb's betrothed husband. You know, they are wed to each other. Scotty O'Shea and the apparently infamous Alex Vega. This was a very, very interesting, #interesting contest, multi-man match. DJM, what context could you give this, and what was your impression starting in?
OMG, PD Rave, I need to talk about Scotty O'Shea.
Yes.
Because while I was watching this show, I was doing a little digging about this event, and I saw that Scotty O'Shea was kind of live vlogging his build-up all the way up to the event and to the match and everything else. And the more I found out about Scotty O'Shea, the more I found that he might be a wrestler that your old buddy the Deej might be a fan of, because he is a hacker. That's his gimmick. And his finish...
Wait, his gimmick is that he's a computer hacker.
Yes.
I thought his gimmick was that he was, like, idolizing Bill DeMott.
Oh, God, no. Come on, this is the Indies. People have more sense than that.
Yes.
That gear and that haircut?
Well, that is true. But when I found out that his gimmick is that he's a hacker, and that he calls his finish the cannonball in the corner, which we'll see a little bit of because this is Canada. He called his finisher Control-Alt-Delete, and
Yes.
that alone got a really big reaction out of me.
So maybe the next thing you can do is get an iPad and then fiddle with the lights.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Maybe he can be the one to bring back the keyboards in the hardcore matches.
Well, those Model M's will get you. Yeah, so I was not familiar with any of the four in this match until seeing this opener, and I would say it was, it was an independent show because it opens with a cutter.
Yeah.
Welcome to an indie wrestling show, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was your indie wrestling starter match with multi-man kind of mayhem. What was interesting was Alex Vega at this moment, at the beginning of the match, kind of pulling I thought fantastic heel move. He kind of did some other stuff after the match, but we'll get to that. But before the match, this being the show after Kevin Steen's last show at Smash Wrestling, he decided to come out to Kevin Steen's music, which I thought was kind of a fun little heel move.
Such a heel move. Absolutely.
I am impressed with Smash that they are one of the few independent promotions I've ever seen to have video package introductions for their wrestlers. I've only seen it in one or two other occasions, but you typically don't see them ever do that. They also do not care about copyright, so they'll swipe anybody's song.
Well,
I miss those days, don't you?
Yes.
When the indie companies.
Yeah, now everybody's scared of getting sued, but they're like, we're in Canada, come get us.
Yes.
JVeezy,
what did you think of this opening contest?
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, this was the typical. Now having been on the show a few times, I'm sort of getting the hang of how these shows are structured, and this is definitely, the typical what I like to call the cluster F match.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't particularly care for it, even though the idea is to get people excited since it's the first match of the show. I thought Gregory Iron seemed the sloppiest of the four. He's, as an obese beardo, I mean, he does have a unique look. You don't really see that too much in mainstream wrestling. Pepper Parks, again, he seemed like he was just really intent on copying Carl Anderson from New Japan Pro Wrestling, right down to the beard and the gun stun.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe he's a good brother. Maybe he's
I didn't like that the match was not an elimination match, that it was first fall gets the win. I always thought that was kind of a garbage thing to do. That was really originated out of two things: one, the need for television time marks, and two, so that you can have your champion lose without losing. So I kind of didn't like that, but it does at least keeps the match length a little shorter. What are your guys' takes on that?
So one of the things that I did like, and I kind of harp on the same things every time I'm on this show, but that this time as a new person coming in, sometimes I don't know who these people are, and I have a hard time getting the history between what's going on between all these guys. And the announcers did a really good job of explaining that, and of course they also did a really good job of saying, hey, this is not an elimination match. So the rules coming in, the people coming in. They showed they put lower thirds for everybody. They gave everybody's Twitter accounts out, and so someone new like me who sees one of these guys and says, hey, this person looks interesting, can actually go research them a little bit more. And
what'd you think of the commentary overall for the show?
I was really impressed. I was really impressed. They stuck to the match at hand. They plugged the stuff later on in the show when was necessary, and then just harp on it. And there was a little bit of banter in between, which is always important, and it didn't sound forced. It didn't sound contrived. I was really, really impressed. I thought they were very, very good.
Yeah, I thought content-wise, I agree. The only problem I have is the audio mix is awful on this show.
Yeah, I was gonna save that for the end.
Oh no, you gotta. That's the first thing I noticed about the show is wow, they got these guys tuned up so loud, and I can understand like if you were in an apathetic like Central Florida kind of show, like how Evolve often is, where you gotta up your commentary because the crowd isn't making noise. But typically, that's the only reason for an indie fed to do that. But Smash has an advantage, and it's the same advantage that PWG has, and it's that they run their shows in a place that serves alcohol.
And the crowd is sufficiently
the crowd
hype.
will be up.
The crowd was sufficiently hype to the point where they did, more often than not, overtake the commentary. So whomever is doing the mixing for Smash Wrestling, you might want to check on that for future reference.
The one thing that should be brought up was the moments after the match with Alex Vega's, I want to say, work shoot.
Alex Vega was salty.
I would say it worked work. But I will give him credit because of the extra added touch that they put on it.
Yeah,
yes, breaking the computer.
Yeah, smashing the computer and then having to regroup with the somebody's MacBook Air or whatever it was, which was an interesting touch and a good nice sounding slap. You know?
I also like just the caption that they put on there. They said like, okay, this following attack was unplanned and we're just keeping it in because otherwise, why would you keep it in your show if it was, quote, real? It's like little things like that just to keep it a little logical is to explain why this guy who would flip out after a match and attack your announcer and get ejected from the building and fired, well, why is this footage still on the show? Well, okay, they gave us a little caption there. Little things like that to sort of keep it in the realm of believability. Of course, this is from months ago, and of course Alex Vega is back because the whole thing is part of the story. But I like it. It helps sell the reality of it to make you think like, oh, wow, did this really happen?
And the fact that they had security escorting him out, and they had the camera follow him backstage as he was getting kicked out of the building.
And they
I don't know how often they showed that sort of thing.
It was like, took away his laser tag pass, It's like, damn it, he played for all that. And then we've transitioned to the next match pretty, briskly.
This had me excited. This really had.
This had me excited as well.
You're gonna have to explain why. Let's hear the excitement level justification.
Petey, I think this might be one of those times where you and I are going to be seriously divided. We're going to be on two opposing sides.
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be divided as much as you think because
we saw one of your favorite new tag teams out on the scene right now, the Kimber Bombs, kind of representing Team USA in Smash Wrestling, taking on the super hardcore anime Lufisto. Yay!
Who's the best?
She's trying to move away from that. That's the real sign that Cool Cabana's dead.
That's a damn shame. But I still love her. She's still great. And for the first time, I'm seeing as a babyface Vanessa Craven.
Yes, in her home country. Oh
my God, I loved Vanessa Craven as a babyface. I loved it. She was great. In Shine and Shimmer, she's a heel because in those promotions, she's this 6-foot-tall monster. They promote her as, but in Smash Wrestling in Canada, she's Vanessa Craven babyface 6-foot-tall monster. And during this match, the Kimber Bombs, Kimberly and Cherry Bomb, they were getting all kinds of heel heat because they were
for being American.
For being American.
Well, they were
some things about wrestling never changed.
Exactly.
And Petey, I gotta ask, you being a big fan of Kimberly and the Kimber Bombs, how did you feel about seeing the Kimber Bombs having to get the heel heat, brother?
I liked it. I was fine with it because I liked them as heels because they work both well and they're funny and of course like I said, we're not as conflicted because I think Lufisto is the best. I love her. We
need some conflict in the show, man. I mean, I was expecting there to be some sort of throwdown here between Petey and David, and I got nothing. Okay, I will be a conflicting voice just so we can get something going on in this podcast. All right, so I have very little interest or concern for any women's wrestling outside of Japan from the mid-1970s to the mid-1990s. I will acknowledge Lufisto is a lunatic and is awesome and is crazy, but in this match, there's spots like the nipple grab and the Bronco Buster and all that stuff. That's really what sort of sums up, this sort of thing. I understand that Shimmer and Shine have their hearts in the right place, but nobody on that roster is good enough in the ring, especially in Shine. At the best, I'll say they are, quote, not bad. I will never in my life say, oh, you got to go see that Shimmer match, or you got to go see that Shine match. I'll watch it and say, all right, I hated my life watching this, but it's also nothing to write home about. They're fundamentally sound, as people say about the WNBA.
I will say there are a few
I've spent so much time watching the best wrestling in the world, and that sort of like wrecked my standards for what women's wrestling should be. But that's the internet. We have access to the full archive of history and the vast, legions of tapes from decades prior. And if I watch something on this and I can say, well, I guess that was okay for now, then okay, it's better than a Divas or Knockouts match. Maybe that's good enough for some people. It's not good enough for me.
And that's totally understandable.
I think the problem with Shimmer and Shine
totally
is
get
that the audience is primarily creepy guys willing to spend $300 on custom videotapes and used ring gear.
Not the custom tapes. No.
Okay, so I understand.
Out of my head for the last few weeks.
I understand. Yeah, I understand the thought process. I know that. I think that the Athena versus Hamada match from WrestleCon 2013 was my favorite match of the weekend.
That's pretty good,
but that's Ayako Hamada.
A Shimmer or Shine trained wrestler.
That is Ayako Hamada.
Like or cheerleader Melissa or somebody to that effect. Okay, you got something going here. But once it's like Jessica Havoc and Eva Lise, it's like, okay, give me a break.
We agree to disagree.
I don't totally disagree with Daryl on that. I'm just saying that when it comes to a lot of the ladies on the indie scene, there are some gems there. It's not totally worth writing off.
Yeah, even Candice LeRae is good in spots. Like, she's sort of like, I don't know if I really care for her in singles bouts, but like in tag matches with Joey Ryan, yeah, she can come in and do her thing and tag out, and then she's good.
Candice LeRae is good in the same way that
Roman Reigns.
Come on, that's just mean. Don't say that about Candice. That's just mean. Now you're just being mean.
Roman Reigns is good in his spots when he comes in and does his thing and gets out.
I was actually going to make a Chikara comparison. But...
I'm a PWG guy, so that puts me in like the anti-Chikara faction, where I will strongly argue that Chikara hasn't had a good match since 2009, and that was when Kota Ibushi and the Bucks were in there. If there's a good match since then, I would like to know.
So, JVeezy, what did you think of this tag team contest?
Well, so I'm one of those people that Daryl was alluding to that.
I will say I enjoyed the double purple Nurple spot. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, okay, I'll be one of those that I did not like that, but I'm also one of those people that is constantly saying, oh, if you take the WWE divas and you just give them like 10-15 minutes to work, then they could do a much better job than they're coming across right now. And so I'm one of those people that's like, you just do better than that, and then I'll be satisfied. And so in this case, they did better than that. They did much better than that. And so I mean, the match started off a little bit slow and a little bit silly, especially with the nipple stuff. But
it was a very good chop from Vanessa Craven. I will give
the chop was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it hit its stride and finished well. And
yeah, it had fun moments, and I think the Kimber Bobs are really fun, especially with the screeching and like the running away to the Kimberly running away to the corner after getting the chop. It was a really fun moment.
I will say what Petey and I are both trying to say is that some silliness in my wrestling isn't necessarily a bad thing, and this had some silliness, but I think once the silliness and the shenanigans were done, it finished off okay.
Oh, I'm all for silliness and shenanigans, provided you can go. I mean, I'm a Dragon Gate guy.
Dragon Gate.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. Let's moving on to the next one. This is something that really caught me off guard. Tyson Dukes. He's still going.
Yes.
Oh my God, Tyson Dukes is still going. Mind blown. And he's taking on a guy I'm not exactly in love with, Johnny Gargano.
Johnny Gargano is brilliant as a villain, as a we'll call it heel, if you would, but he's primarily not playing that role, and he wasn't here either in Smash. He was being a good guy. I think a lot of people kind of soured on Johnny Gargano when Gabe tried to have him be like the big 2.5-year champion to like outdo RVD and all those guys, and that didn't really seem to help him out too much.
I just want to say I dislike Johnny Gargano since he joined Fist in Chikara.
Oh, okay.
I disliked Johnny Gargano before it was cool. So,
Okay, so back when it was him and Chuck Taylor,
yeah.
who was also a brilliant villain.
Yeah.
Can Chuck Taylor get signed, please? Somebody sign Chuck Taylor.
But yeah, this match I thought it was a decent, solid match. I wouldn't call it a must see. Like, wow, go out and see the show for this match. But it's definitely a good match.
It was good, and Tyson Dukes, a guy that I've seen in the Midwest and in Ontario scene, he's had ins and outs with WWE. He's been all over the place. The comparison I would make is probably best to Nigel McGuinness in a lot of ways, and I was really surprised to see him on this show. Pleasantly surprised, but him and Johnny Gargano had a really good contest. JV, what did you think of this one between Tyson Dukes and Johnny Gargano?
I would definitely agree that it was a good contest. And
also, sorry, Jay. One more thing that the commentary really put over after this match is over is that they're tied in their contests 1-1 in Smash Wrestling after this contest, which was hey, storytelling. All right, good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, you're stealing all my points. That's what I was going to say too.
Sorry.
The commentary did. These two guys, I've heard their names before, never seen any of their stuff. So it's nice that the commentary comes in and provides a little bit of history between these two guys. Mentions that they've had a match before, and so yeah, once they've had another good match, then essentially start building up to the next one. And so they brought them in, they show what they can do, and get people excited about what's going to happen next, and that's pretty much all you can ask for.
That's
if you want to learn more about Johnny Gargano, two matches I'll recommend are his match against Shingo Takagi from the Dragon Gate USA show from I think it was 2 years ago at this point at the WrestleMania weekend, and then I also am a fan of I believe it was a match against Samurai Del Sol, who's now Kalisto. It was one of his final matches on the indie scenes before going to NXT. Really good stuff, and you can typically see Johnny on pretty much every PWG show now as well.
Yeah.
Definitely an underrated talent.
I've never denied his talent and ability, just as a character and as a personality. He's just
right.
not.
I agree with you that I think as a good guy, he's not really all that good. But like the two matches I picked are from when he was like being a villain, and his sort of persona kind of became like holding onto the belt and treating it like it was his precious, like Gollum and the One Ring. I thought that really fit like him, and then he'd give like these really insincere, inauthentic, good guy post-match
I'm
promos.
your hero.
Yeah,
I'm your hero.
That stuff to me is great. But yeah, normally
that is the one time I found him to be enjoyable.
Yeah. And this match was a fun kind of go back and forth between the two, and they worked really well. And then you had the next contest with another determined go-getter in Brent Banks, who was originally supposed to be facing, I believe it was, Jay Lethal. There was some
Other guy.
issues announced.
Can somebody sign him too? Jay Lethal?
Jay Lethal is signed. Ring of Honor.
Good point. Ring of Honor. That's true.
That counts as being signed, technically.
Yes, it does.
They are not an independent, technically, because they are owned by a multi-million-dollar conglomerate.
and they have national television.
Yeah, so he's signed. But the replacement that we ended up getting instead of Jay Lethal is none other than one of my favorite people in wrestling, all night long, Rich Swann.
Oh yeah, one of my favorites as well. Again, as I said earlier, I'm a big fan of Dragon Gate. Rich Swann is one of the
Ronin Party.
A good high flyer, really acrobatic, really charismatic guy. They actually on WWE posted a video of their latest round of tryouts. Rich Swann was there, so that means they know about him. If Rich Swann doesn't get called up this year, then somebody is an idiot.
Well, yeah.
We know that. We know those facts. We know these truths to be self-evident.
If nothing else,
you got to give Rich Swann the props because he came out with the Ribera jacket.
Yes.
Yeah, the Ribera, the Japanese steakhouse that only gives the swank jackets out to wrestlers. Back in the 80s, that was like the coveted, like, I'm a wrestler who went to Japan item to bring back.
That's right.
And he'd also had the Zubas and the Ribera jacket, the ultimate combo.
And, Petey, the Zubas, the Ribera jacket, and...
the Fanny Pack.
Haha, see what we did there? We did the thing.
Tied it into your own show. But the other good thing about Smash is that normally when Rich Swann wrestles in the United States, they can't play his entrance music, which is All Night Long by Lionel Richie. But Smash doesn't give a crap. And so you finally got to see that like tremendous entrance that normally you can only see if you actually go to the show live.
I did get a chance to also see All Night Long live. Not only that, he was on mic singing it when I got to see Rich Swann live back at WrestleCon.
I have to ask you a question. Me being a product of the mid-2000 indie scene, I got to experience Bryan Danielson coming out to the final countdown on multiple occasions. How would you say experiencing Rich Swann coming out to Lionel Richie compares to the final countdown?
It really depends on the crowd.
I wouldn't say it could stack up to Bryan Danielson and the final countdown, but it was a beautiful, fulfilling experience. I think it didn't have the grandiosity of the final countdown, but it had the warm, good feelings.
You had to make the final countdown like his. It was one of those things where he kind of stuck with it, and eventually people loved it. Very much like how Enter Sandman, like. It took a while for the Sandman to get that entrance like as big as it was, but All Night Long, as best I can tell, it was like this great thing like from day one. Like people just loved clapping the
good feelings. It's just fun and good feelings.
Yeah, not knowing any other words to the song, just All Night Long.
Well, I will say I knew the words to the final countdown only because it was the entrance music for the Detroit Pistons back in the day. so that was part of why.
I only know them because it's the entrance music for Bryan Danielson.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, JVeezy, what did you think of Rich Swann and Brink Banks and All Night Long?
I mean, it can pretty much be summed up by that entrance, just that surprise entrance, and I mean, like you guys said, it's amazing. Watching it made me feel like I wanted to be there at the show, and just watching that crowd go nuts, watching the lights go, and just everybody interact. And I mean, that's kind of the selling point for these shows is you get to interact, and this is one of those moments where he came out and everybody exploded, everybody clapped along, and it carried into the match. Just the energy carried through and all the way up until the end. He couldn't take
off his pants.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
yes. And he just rolled with that.
It's like, all right, give me a second,
it's
damn it.
It's a hard thing to do in wrestling to have a substitution that is satisfactory. And I personally like Rich Swann more than Jay Lethal. Nothing against Jay Lethal. I think
at this point, Rich Swann probably has more upside. I think. If we're being honest with ourselves, he has more upside.
Jay Lethal's he's always been a bad promo, but I mean, I just like Rich's ring style. It's a little more exciting and high flying and all that good stuff.
And whenever he channels and becomes Black Chris Jericho, it's always a beautiful experience.
Yes.
Like those moments where he's like, "Come on, baby, You just can't.
As
help but
coined
smile.
by Kevin Steen, Black
Yes.
Jericho.
Black Chris Jericho. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the only thing that's
and-
better is Black Ryback by A.R. Fox.
Yeah.
Wait, wouldn't that be Uha Nation? Well,
No.
I would say
Well,
Uha's
Nation's
significantly
own man.
more
The
athletic.
one-man nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes it too easy.
Nation. Easy. No,
For
Uha
now,
Nation can.
his name
can
might
do
be getting
better.
changed soon too.
Yeah. If all things are going the right way. If there's if there's justice in the world, that would be the case. But yeah, it's fun contest from Rich Swann. And bring
This might
back, I
actually
think.
be possibly my second favorite match of the night, if not my third.
And I think I was
say that
impressed
the,
by
the
Brent
upcoming
Backs.
contest. The upcoming contest was definitely my favorite.
You like Josh Alexander versus Sebastian Suave?
Oh, my bad.
You got ahead of yourself.
Contest
You
over.
forgot that match
contest.
even happened.
Yes.
Well, that
So-
says plenty, doesn't it?
Now we got this next contest going. We had the walking weapon Josh Alexander taking on the partner of John Greed, the former partner of Josh Alexander, which again was eloquently illustrated and pointed out by the commentary team. Two former tag team partners taking on each other.
Have
Members
any
of
of
the
you guys
Old Dogs.
seen either of these guys before this match? 'Cause I
Josh
think they're
Alexander,
both
yes.
Canadian-
Josh
well,
Alexander, yes, I
Alexander.
have seen. Yes.
We've talked about him on previous shows, at least one previous show. I know him because of the ear guards. Because of the ear guards, and I remember the event that we talked about it. He had this big storyline of his was it was AIW, and the big storyline with that is JT Lightning Invitational Tournament, and it was his cauliflower ears, his ears, and having to have them drained pre-match. And that was like the video of him getting a needle in his ear, his cauliflower ear, which is a visual that I can't get out of my head. But yeah, Josh Alexander versus Sebastian Suave, accompanied to the ring by John Greed of earlier.
Sebastian Suave is a
show.
great wrestler name.
Yes.
it is a little easy for the announcers to confuse saying suave with swan, but maybe it's just, again, that mic mixing and clipping out on them.
Yeah, it could be that, and both of them sitting at different distances from their mic probably didn't help things either.
And that's why it's great that they had the lower thirds.
Yes, which is fantastic. JVeezy, I'll ask you, what was your impression of this contest?
I was kind of just waiting for this one to finish, but I will point out a few things that I jotted down. One. They had another moment in the match where they had, the fan assisting with the whip, and I thought, okay, that's nice that they managed to block out time in the show to have a little bit more fan interaction. That's good.
Yeah.
That this is probably the match where the sound quality really, really started grating on you because, normally I'm all for having the announcers just absolutely going nuts because, if the announcers aren't selling the show for you, then who the hell else is going to? Because
The trouble is when your base mixing level is already here, and you need to bring it up some. There's nowhere to go.
And in this match, the announcers were trying really hard to be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And just every time they were screaming, "Oh!" for this part, it just just the fact that the sound quality was bad just made it all the more aggravating because what you were seeing wasn't necessarily matching the intensity, and normally that's okay because normally the intensity of the announcers helps bring your excitement up, but in this case, that combined with the bad sound quality made it so like every little slightly positive thing that happened in the match turned out to be kind of aggravating because now every time something slightly good happens in the match, the announcers are screaming in your ears.
Yeah.
And,
How telling is it that this is a match that we're kind of all sort of unanimous? It's sort of a nothing sort of match. Doesn't really stand out too much
We'll
on
say
the
this is
card.
the cool
And
down.
yet it's a match where there's like a brainbuster on the apron.
yeah.
Indie wrestling.
Jim Cornette would totally be mad at us for not even remembering these guys. You know, I always get a kick out of all the matches I show that, you know, I have a little disclaimer warning. Jim Cornette does not approve of this style because the kind of wrestling I love is the kind of wrestling he doesn't seem to care for, as epitomized by the match after this one.
Yeah. I just want to say before we get into this match, one competitor in this upcoming match pointed out that nobody really misses when Jim Cornette booked Ring of Honor.
Yeah. Jim Cornette got real mad, and then his standards of, you know, who's a draw is, oh, well, did you sell out an arena yourself? Well, by those standards, Jim, nobody's a star except for about 3 people in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Including your boy, Mike Pondo.
Yeah.
Or his boy, Matt Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the upcoming contest, the Tag Team Showdown. I don't recall any other time of this showdown happening, oddly enough. I imagine it's happened.
Oh, this has happened in PWG for sure.
Oh, yeah. It's happened in PWG multiple times. Oh, yeah. And so that's how I to sort of track it down. They did a really smart move, Smash Wrestling, that they took this match and put it up for free on YouTube to promote themselves, to say, hey, we're Smash Wrestling, and this is a kind of match that you'll see if you support Smash Wrestling. And so there will be a YouTube link if you go to their own account or website. And again, tomorrow for the Raw Alternative, it's going to open with this match, so you will be able to see it.
This match will be the opener for the Raw Alternative?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Alternative.
Nice.
I have picked this match and shown it to people myself because that's what I do when I pick matches that I consider particularly to my liking.
Yeah.
And
so this
really was the one that sold the show.
Yeah, Super Smash Brothers versus a Bullet Club representatives, the Young Bucks, coming out to the first edition of the Bullet Club theme. And the entrance video, too, which, I mean, it's a jittery Bullet Club logo, but still a cool entrance video. And superimposed on the actual live footage of the event, you know, because that's the style. Too sweet me.
Can I just say that not only are the Young Bucks just so wonderful right now and have just been absolutely wonderful.
Oh, yeah. 2014 was their year.
Oh, God, yes. And I just love that they were super kicking the streamers for whatever reason, not just that.
And they do it every time now, so they're pretty accurate with those things now.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't really be that super of kicks if it takes at least a dozen to knock someone down, but you know, it's just so fun that I don't really care.
It's a super kick. It's a party. It's a party, and everyone's invited. Like Oprah, you get a super kick, and you get a super kick, and you get a super kick.
And I believe this may be the contest in which we get, I think, one of the lines of the night, or I think either this one or the one after one, where it said, the Vuvuzela says it all.
Yeah, there was a guy in the crowd who brought a Vuvuzela, which is so obnoxious, and typically you don't see it done at a wrestling show. But the Young Bucks are all about being lovably obnoxious.
Yes, and I think that was, he didn't overuse it. I give the guy credit. He gave it moments to use it where it was appropriate to punctuate, you know, moments in the match. He wasn't droning on.
Yeah, it wasn't like when you go to CMLL and some guy's just hitting that air horn.
Blowing the air horn constantly over and over and over.
He gives it, or it was an exciting spot.
Like
we're all cheering.
Yeah. And it's not like in CZW where anytime there's a heel promo, someone will blow their air horn. It's not like that either.
I guess if you're using South Africa as a standard for not overusing the Vuvuzela, he didn't overuse it. But I mean, that's along the lines
that's
of
the standard.
Yes, the standard.
Certainly by average, that's probably.
He left it to the moments where everybody was cheering.
Yes, I will agree with that.
How awesome are the Super Smash Brothers? I mean, I'm so mad that they've got visa issues and they can't really compete in America, but if you want to see the Super Smash Brothers, go to Smash Wrestling now. It kind of. I am glad that he's going by Player Dose. I always like Player Dose instead of Stupefied as a name a little more. How familiar are you guys with the SSB in general?
Love them.
Trust me, we are familiar. I
honestly do prefer the name Stupefied over Player Dose, but all the same.
I like it. I like the idea of
love
Player Dose being his name while he's with the team, and then Stupefied being kind of his name, like that he goes up.
Honestly, maybe one of my biggest reactions was when the Super Smash Brothers won the PWG Tag Team titles. I don't think I had gotten that excited for a win in PWG in a really long time, because it was in that time during PWG where the Young Bucks had held the tag team titles for what seemed like an eternity.
Oh yeah, they're the go-to default PWG tag champs.
And when the Super Smash Brothers beat them, it was just unbelievable. And of course, I loved them in Chikara, where they started using the Mortal Kombat theme as their entrance music, and they've used that throughout since. They had a little bit of a run in ROH, which
until Jim Cornette said no one wants to see these guys in pajamas. So that's another thing they share some common ground with the Young Bucks, that Jim Cornette doesn't think they're very good.
Yeah.
I will say this: the key thing that makes them an elite tag team, and this is something that WWE hasn't figured out yet. It's very important if you have a tag team or a multi-man stable, you gotta have your team taunt. Your tandem pose that you strike in the middle of a match. Yes. Dragon Gate is the masters of this. Like, I love, like, even though the Young Bucks are going to sweep all the awards, my heart of hearts goes out to the Millennials.
Thank you. Yes.
And T-Hawk are just, like, so tremendous, and they're also real good at just, like, striking, like, the victory pose. And the Smash Brothers probably have one of the best ones because of the time they do it.
Yeah,
the Young Bucks... They don't do as many poses mid-match as I'd like, but they do quite a few.
Yeah.
But just the notion of
they're too busy super kicking.
Yeah.
One leg on the other guy and then do like the
Lord of the Dance.
Tremendous.
But yeah, JVeezy, you had some thoughts.
Well, to piggyback on that, they did the pose, and then one of them tried to roll out of the ring while still doing the pose and got caught up on the ropes. And like I love that they did that little. They not only did they strike the pose, but they were so insistent on sticking to the pose that they were able to get a comedy spot out of failing to let go of the pose. And,
yes.
It
was actually absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
You
for
have
this
to learn
match,
to commit to the act. You gotta commit.
Commit to the
double
bit.
down.
Commit to the bit. That's how it works. That's the only way it works.
They also have a tremendous finisher. Like, as much as, you know, more bang for your buck is a spectacular thing to look at, the fatality looks like it kills a man.
Yes.
It is a perfect name.
And then you had the fatality. Of course, I love the get over here every time they do it. It's just such a really cool participatory moment. And they had another great moment.
Jim Cornette doesn't understand him. It's all gamer humor. He didn't get Kenny Omega either.
Yeah. Well,
Don't get me started on what happened with Ring of Honor and Kenny.
Don't get me started on it.
Do not get us started.
I think it's safe to say that Jim Cornette is an idiot, and we can move on to from our conversation from him. But yeah, another great moment was, going back to the super kicks, and it's something that I'd always wondered if somebody could incorporate a moment like this into a match or have it happen. The simultaneous, you know how we have those. They're thinking the same thing with like a clothesline or a crossbody. They did the simultaneous super kicks, and they got tangled up. And that was just a beautiful little moment.
And that was a great change from something that I saw in Chikara in Chicago for Tag World Grand Prix a couple of years ago, where everyone went for the super kick and they all just knocked each other out.
Yes.
And it's amazing that the Young Bucks are innovating the super kick. That's just a testament to what they're doing right now.
The Young Bucks are innovating the back rake.
Yes, of course. That nobody can emphasize the devastation of the back rake like the Young Bucks.
Right. Not since Hollywood Hulk Hogan has there been a more devastating back rake.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's definitely what struck this. I'll confess, this is the first time. I've definitely heard of both of these teams before, but this is the first time I've actually seen any of them wrestle.
JV, we haven't had you on to see a Young Bucks match?
No, you have not. And the thing is,
my God!
Like, I definitely heard of that.
Well, the next step. Now you got to get him Young Bucks versus Future Shock versus Super Smash Brothers in the ladder match from that PWG show, which I actually have right in front of me, but I'm too lazy to reach over and read the title of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
JV, I can't believe we haven't had you on for a show that hasn't had at least one Young Bucks match. My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, especially in 2014, since they've become like such a huge property.
Right, that's the thing.
Getting booked everywhere.
I kept hearing about them, and
Mhm.
I mean, I just never made the extra effort to actually go look at one of their matches on YouTube or any other place. But I kept hearing about them, kept seeing gifs of like all these super kicks and stuff, and
Oh,
you know.
Also,
And-
if you can, follow them on Twitter or follow them on Vine, because they're just becoming even more hilarious.
They are pretty funny. They do have pretty funny Twitter accounts. But what did you think of the match, since this is your first exposure to both of these teams?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I like. One of you guys said it before that they were kind of lovably obnoxious. You know, just the fact that they're gonna do cartwheels and then follow it up, or use the cartwheels to emphasize the back rake, and you know, just like little things like that kind of poke fun at wrestling while also, you know, having enough athleticism and enough fluidity to highlight wrestling as well.
Right. I think it's important to have both if you do the first one.
Yeah, because otherwise you just seem cynical if you do the first one, and
Yes.
and
It's kind of the philosophy that I love about a couple of things, including Chikara, where you take the craft seriously, but you don't take yourselves seriously, and you don't take the medium seriously. You take the craft seriously, but you don't take the medium too seriously, and you don't take yourself too seriously.
I would say Quackenbush takes the medium entirely too seriously.
He does, and he's kind of my hero, but his obsessive compulsive disorder has hurt his promotion and talents in his promotion more times than I'd like to admit.
well, it
kills me to say that because I love him. I love him.
I like the idea of Chikara. Execution lately, that's another topic for another show.
It is. It is.
But yeah, this was a fantastic tag team contest, and I'm glad it's going to be leading off for Alternative. But then now we get to the main event of the evening. We have the Smash Heavyweight Championship contest. We have Matt Cross, M-Dog Matt Cross, defending not only his title,
Matt Cross.
M-Dog 20. M-Dog 20.
M-Dog 20, Matt Cross, defending not only his title, but his streak. The streak. He's 21-0 in Smash Wrestling as
but
champion,
Petey,
I believe.
You know what this is really? This is really NXT versus Tough Enough. That's what this is.
Yes.
What about Lucha Underground, man?
Yes.
Yeah, he is Son of Havoc.
Show.
He is Son of Havoc. And with that fantastic beard of his.
Yes, it's so amazing. And then
Aren't we done with the overly ridiculously long beards in wrestling now? Isn't it time for that fad to die?
No.
I'm very anti-beard, but I may be a minority on this show in that sense.
I mean,
I just think the
very
fad is
pro-beard.
about played out.
Once we've reached peak beard, and like that is actually like an actual term that somebody.
I think
like,
we're starting to. I think
beard
the well is starting to run dry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's understandable. But yeah, this one had the Matt Cross defending against Chris Hero. A couple of things
AKA Chris Giro,
Oh,
because that's what he's been eating lately.
too soon.
Yeah, so that's what I'm.
I love it.
Getting. So okay, so I'm gonna a couple of
And
things.
I don't
The
even
great
like
start-
Chris Hero. I've never liked Chris Hero.
I was never
Come
super
on.
into Chris Hero until he got real fat, and now
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, let's. I'm gonna. So I wanted to bring that up. I want to talk about this. First of all, what was great was Matt Cross playing up the streak. Apparently, the previous event he played up kind of a Goldberg-inspired entrance. This time he played up the Undertaker reference.
oh
which
yeah,
is
they just
fantastic.
straight up played the Undertaker's theme song, and put a graphic together that looked just like the Undertaker's, because hey, he doesn't have that streak anymore. Hardy, are.
And that was fun. And then And yeah, okay, so I was never involved in the making fun of Chris Hero's weight. I never really made a point of looking at it or seeing it, or he was on next to see it, he wasn't, and then I watched this main event, and I just couldn't help but notice Chris Hero's fat. Like this is finally the moment where I was like, Chris Hero's fat.
Now,
And,
PD,
The best thing about Chris Hero being fat, though, is that it doesn't affect what he's doing in the ring. He still does all his stuff, and that's like kind of more admirable if you think about it.
now
Like,
here's
it's not
the
like he
thing,
became
guys.
so fat that he can't move or get his stuff in. It's like he still does it, even though he's got like the beer guts. It's like I just want him to get fatter and still do like these dives and like all these like elbows.
And here's the thing, guys. Here's what people have forgotten about Chris Hero. Back in the day when he was coming up on the Midwest indie scene with CM Punk and Cole Cabana and Adam Pearce, he was fat back then, and he was still doing all of this stuff.
Oh,
When
yeah,
he
he
still
was-
had the
he
full
was
Chris
pudgy.
Hero bodysuit.
Yeah, the thing is, like, he had worked it
He's
out.
reverting back
where
to his natural form.
He's reverting back to his natural form, which is fine. But maybe he should revert back to
Maybe he
his
should
original
revert back to his
Eddie
natural
Kingston
gear.
tights. Yeah, his original pleather pant. Dust out
See,
the pleather pants.
The
But
thing
on
is that
We call them trash bag overalls here. Thank you.
look, I loved the early 2000 pleather indie fashion trend.
Yes.
I
Listen,
love
my
that.
favorite wrestler
Hey.
was Super Dragon. You don't have to tell me about like the value and
Yeah.
greatness of wearing trash bag gear.
Yeah,
Okay.
Eddie Kingston still makes it work well over there in what he's doing. So it works well when you need to. But I told you, DJM, on Skype that I was trying to watch this main event, and all I could notice was Chris Hero's cottage cheese thighs.
And I
want-
have to say this again, disclaimer. I am not a fan of Chris Hero. I've never liked the dude. But I think that the internet wrestling community at large has been way too hard on the guy.
Yes,
Wait, people
yes.
seriously
And
don't
I agree.
like him for
I
that?
agree.
That's the reason to like him.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It was noticeable for the first time to me, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Is like he kind of has the muffin top, and you could see the fold, and
Look,
yeah.
if
so-
I had a WWE developmental contract and then I got let go, I'd probably go to Wendy's a couple of times
Oh
myself.
yeah, just imagine if Kevin Steen got let go from his NXT contract. Remember Kevin Steen, literally right before he came to NXT, and then once he showed up, it's like, wow, he killed himself to lose that weight. The
Yeah, he
second he
did.
doesn't need to lose that weight, he should just eat an entire cake,
yes.
like how he did when he won the ROH title.
But here's the thing: Kevin Steen doesn't wear trunks.
That's
He
true.
doesn't. He
Yes.
But
doesn't.
in general,
That's
I
what
think
made
one
it.
thing that is cool about independent wrestling overall is that, by and large, the crowds that are in attendance, maybe not necessarily on the internet, but in attendance, care more about what a guy can do than how he looks. Like, if you don't have like this jacked physique, or if you're not super tall, but you can do some cool stuff in the ring, then you can be popular on the independent level. And so I think, in the end, maybe, I don't know, like how much of like the hate on Chris Hero online is like serious and how much of it is just like, everyone just making jokes. But I think it hasn't hurt Chris Hero as like a prospect on the indie scene. He's getting booked everywhere, and he's still like a name and a draw. So at least it's working out for him still, even if he's not working out quite so much.
I think
Nice.
I think dress your look. I think that's what we're trying to say. It was distracting, but yeah, this was a pretty fun contest. I think overall, Matt
I
Cross.
really
did it.
enjoyed this. It was.
Yeah.
It was. I say this was very, very indie, and I mean that in the nicest way. I enjoyed it for that. It was very indie, but I
It went
liked
back and forth in all the right ways. It had a lot of fun. It had the Matt Cross playing up the fun in the beginning, but then once the action started picking up, all that disappeared, and then they got into serious mode, and they stayed in serious mode. They kind of they had the good pace of like Matt Cross had those like fun kind of play up moments of the streak, trying to go for the Tombstone Pile Driver early on in the match because playing up the Undertaker thing, but then at some point there was a gear shift and it was serious times, and then it was forearms to the head and roaring elbows back and forth, and like the mafia kicks and like it was fantastic.
It was all kinds of indie.
Yes, all kinds of
indie. One of the better matches of the night. I mean, definitely Smash Brothers versus Young Bucks is the best match of the show. But this is, again, either second or third in my book.
Yeah, JVeezy, what did you think of the main event?
I'm gonna have to be the contrary one here because it's, and
now it's your turn.
I think
we welcome all opinions here.
I think it suffers a little bit from coming on after that last match.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult to follow the Young Bucks in general.
Yeah, and it suffered for me from the fact that it was very late. But when I watched it, for one thing that really stuck out to me at the beginning was just how there's definitely a size difference between these two wrestlers, and early on in the match when Matt Cross was flipping Chris Hero, like it just looked really awkward to me, where like Chris Hero would kind of have to turn to the side in order to be able to execute the flip. While being, grappled by Matt Cross, and it just like I don't know, maybe just after seeing that, and then that kind of brought to my attention later in the match just all the different things that just kind of looked really awkward by the fact that these two guys were so different in size, which was also accentuated by by the weight issues that you guys had talked about before. And so I don't know, it just starting from that, and then just the pace of the match compared to the pace of the previous match, I don't know, for some reason it just didn't really sit well with me. And and then by the end, I guess there isn't necessarily anything wrong with
it seems like you're sounding like that if this had an in-between this and the Young Bucks match, it probably would have gotten a better response out of you, and more than anything else in the match itself.
It would have gotten a better response, but at the same time, I don't think I would have considered it, second or third best match of the night, like you guys are saying either. It just seemed like a match that was taking place in the middle of the show. I didn't really. It didn't make the title seem all that important to me, and the stakes didn't seem all that important, and I don't know. I guess I was just somewhat unimpressed given how impressive the announcers seem to be billing these guys. And
there's sort of a Don West syndrome to it, you might say.
It got oversold.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah, I think so. And especially just after hearing so much stuff about Chris Hero. I can't remember whether I saw any of his matches in NXT or not. And I almost feel like
I don't know if he was on TV all that much.
Did he ever?
He had
yeah, he was on a little bit, but
he had a feud with William Regal.
He was on more than anything. I think I saw him on when it was still FCW. Like it was. Yeah, that's when I noticed him and doing a promo or something.
Yeah, you guys were saying that that like his weight doesn't really affect the types of moves he can do, but it seemed like to me like his weight affected the pace that he could do those moves at. And maybe that's just from not having seen some of his earlier matches back from when he was heavy. And,
yeah, when he was coming up, he would do hour-long matches with American Dragon and that sort of thing. So he's got very good cardio, at least.
Yeah, and so I'm certainly not disputing that. It was just more the pace of it that just didn't.
Yeah, really work. And I will say, the fact that he couldn't quite elegantly go over on the Snapmare takeover.
And again, you guys are saying a lot of the things just in ring wise, forgetting the weight. A lot of the things that I've never been into in love with Chris Hero. He is in that contemporary mid-2000s indie scene with CM Punk and American Dragon, but to me, he was never quite on that level.
I think what I liked most about this match may have been, and I think I definitely understand what you're talking about, JVeezy. I think a lot of what I liked about this match was probably helped out a lot by Matt Cross, who's talented and athletic and did a lot of cool stuff, especially playing up the streak at the beginning. I mean, it's the new streak by R.D. Evans.
Yeah, it's no Archibald Peck streak.
What Archibald Peck has a streak too?
Nah, there's some other guy.
His lawyer, R.D. Evans.
R.D. Evans. Yeah.
It's easy to get them mixed up. Especially with all the time travel that's been going on.
Yeah. And then, one of them has a beard, the other one doesn't. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd. But yeah, it was Matt Cross really did it well. And yeah, the Chris Hero, I definitely understand that, Chris Hero can go at his weight, but
he's never been one of my top guys either. There's always something that, again, like maybe it's his promos, maybe it's the fact that he looks like a hobo.
His attitude.
I've just never been a fan.
I love the hobo look.
It's just all of those things for me, going all the way back in the day when he was still a regular for CZW. I was just never.
I think it was like it's one of those things where it's like there are moments where it's like, oh, he puts out some cool matches, and there are moments where you think like, what has he got other than the fact that he decided, hey, let's do cravats now. What else has he got?
Petey, you're saying the thing I've been saying since about 2000.
So I definitely can see both sides.
Continually overshadowed by whoever's the guy who happens to be next to him. Like, yeah, you're part of the Kings of Wrestling. Who is the other guy in the Kings of Wrestling? Oh, Claudio Castagnoli.
One of the best, I definitely can see a little bit of
with the Saints.
I definitely can see a lot of the both sides when it comes to Chris Hero, and then I can see how I could lean more towards something like DJM's side nowadays, especially with the boy got a muffin top, man, and he's got little moves. He's got little moves.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
It was almost adorable. It was almost adorable. He wanted a little squish his little bit, like his sides go.
You would just like poke him in the belly like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, but and you hate to harp on that because we're in this business where you celebrate guys like Kevin Steen, Samoa Joe.
We're in this post-indie renaissance. This post-punk Brian.
I think the problem is that he's not fat enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, that's what made it
looking and still like bring the match quality, and then everyone will be on board.
Like Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe
was big. Samoa Joe was big, and then he stopped carrying and he was fat. But most of the time he's big.
But it's TNA. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, Bermuda
and
Triangle.
He's acrobatic, but he can go, and it was fantastic. And bigger guys can be big and make it work, but he's in this uncomfortable he's in
like this weird transitionary phase of like
it's the uncanny valley of
that's kind of it. That's what made it uncomfortable for me, was that like I keep hearing about this guy and it just seems like he can go faster, and
the problem is like look at the match that came right before it.
He used to be able to, JV. That's what I will say. He used to be able to.
Yeah. It's also like the speed of a Young Bucks match right before that.
Yes.
And you see player Uno keeping up with the Young Bucks, and player Uno's a big guy.
Yeah. He's a big guy.
And then you have that main event, supposedly like a slower paced thing, but one of the guys in the ring is Matt Cross, who isn't really like that like mat based or something like that.
He's hyper.
It's like, oh wow, it feels slow. Yeah. Maybe it's just like the placement of the match on the card. Like usually an indie show might have an intermission, so you have something that gives people like a buffer.
Yeah.
But to go straight from
like a lot of time.
It is Matt Cross and he's the champion, so I think in the end it was the booking of the opponent.
Might have been, but hey, in the end we found out that M-Dog 20's bigger than the Undertaker.
Yes.
Matt Cross,
That's all
greater
it is.
sign, Undertaker, everybody.
Boom. There you go.
We have a show
yeah.
title, Petey.
You're gonna have to write it
We
down.
totally
I'll
need to
forget
make that. That's totally got to be the show title.
it. Type it down because I'll forget it.
M-Dog greater than Undertaker. Got it.
Yes, I'm greater than Undertaker. But yeah, that was the main event. Let's talk about the show overall. JVeezy, what did you think of the show overall?
I feel like I wish I was there because it seemed like the crowd was having an excellent, like they were having a great time, and
serving alcohol on the premises helps a lot for that.
Yeah, that and being there would mean you might be able to hear the announcers without the audio issues. And I mean, overall, like whoever was I don't know how much planning goes into some of these matches. I've heard different things about how some matches are planned.
It's fluid. It's very
fluid.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything that these guys decided to do, they decided to do at the exact right time that they absolutely needed to. Like I feel like the way the matches were structured were excellent, and just the overall the wrestling in this show was excellent, and and I mean every time I come on the show, I harp about the same sort of thing about how like I want to get to know these guys more, but I can't because I have a hard time keeping track of these guys, and these Smash did an excellent job of, like, this is the one show that I've been on that I can't complain about that stuff because they did an excellent job of promoting the wrestlers that wrestled on their show, and so I'm very happy about that. I mean, my two complaints probably are just the audio and the main event, and other than that, I'm very, very happy with the show, especially because of the second to last match between the Super Smash Brothers and the Young Bucks. That was extremely entertaining to watch, and makes me want to watch these guys more, which is the point.
Mm-hmm. And Daryl, what did you think of the show overall?
Overall, I mean, I think the show is kind of acceptable. It's okay. I don't know if I would like go out and buy this show afterwards. I mean, there was the one match that I expected to be great was great, so it met my expectation as far as that. The other guys who I hadn't seen before, I didn't really walk out of this saying, oh, I never heard of this guy before, and now I need to go and see more of this guy. Most everybody I saw that I was impressed by and that I liked were already people I was familiar with because they brought them in. And I think Smash moving forward, they've got a name in the sense that, hey, this is the place where all those great Canadian talents that are now like tearing up the U.S. indie scene, hey, they started here or they cut their teeth kind of here, and now if you bring in those U.S. talents and now you'll see the next generation of those like big name guys come up potentially, that could be sort of like their their claim to fame. But like overall, I mean, we live in an era where you don't need to book wrestling shows the way you used to, in the sense that you have deliberately, like, the undercard matches are like supposed to be progressively better to build up to, like, the best last one. Like in this case, the best match wasn't even the main event, as Jerry mentioned. And so in that sense, a lot of these matches I would never ever watch again, or even left to my own devices, I wouldn't have watched them in the first place. I would just look at it on paper and say, I'm just going to watch this and this and be good with it. And that's usually how I consume wrestling these days. I mean, this show overall was like 2 hours 45 minutes, something to that effect, a relatively standard indie match length. I limit myself to 2 hours of wrestling a week, and that's about as much as I'll take. And so what I usually do is I'll take like one match from one federation, one match from another, one match from another, put them together. Some are present day, some are from the past, and those are my 2 hours of wrestling. And so I do that. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll post links to whatever I pick for the week. And I will say, for this show, if you can get at least one match that I would say go out and see that, then it's a good show. So this show, overall, especially again to Jerry's point, if you were there live, it would be tremendous. Great audience, great reactions, great atmosphere. Watching it on video, I would just pick a couple matches here and there, and then sort of discard the rest.
Mm-hmm. And DJ, what is your takeaway at the end of the day?
This show really surprised me. I thought I was pleasantly surprised at how much of it I actually enjoyed. I found one talent that I always try and find on every indie show that we do here on the show. I always try and look for maybe one or two guys that I hadn't heard of before that will hopefully catch my attention, and that happened. Scotty O'Shea, who kind of caught my interest with his gimmick. I got to see some talents that I hadn't seen before, and one talent in particular that has been around forever that I had honestly thought just kind of retired in Tyson Dukes, and that was a pleasant surprise. Overall, the upper half of the show for me was really enjoyable. It really had very little of this entire show could have been really subpar. I thought that the entire show, from start to finish, was relatively, at worst, passable, and at best, pretty good. I would not turn down any of this show, and it definitely came off great live to be in the crowd, and that is something that is kind of forgotten by a lot of wrestling fans on the internet, and that's how enjoyable an indie wrestling show can be in the crowd instead of just watching it at your screen typing out the things you don't like.
A lot of people who go to indie wrestling shows really will watch the show live like they're at home.
And I really like that came out. I really liked the commentary team. They were really good. The camera work was good. The overall production value of this show surprised me. If they can get the audio problem taken care of, Smash Wrestling has a lot of upside. I think the upside for Smash Wrestling is really, really high. Also, one thing, and guys, I don't know if you caught on this, maybe because we're in a post-Kevin Steen, post-El Generico world, and this is Canada. How many times on this show was the cannonball in the corner executed?
A lot.
Has that become the new sharpshooter for Canada? The cannonball in the corner?
It might be. I think that
back in the day when a Canadian wrestler does the sharpshooter, it hurts more because it's Canada. It seems like that's the thing with the cannonball in the corner now, which, by all means.
Even if you're not like a big guy.
Well, Generico's from Tijuana.
Yeah.
Well, Sami Zayn's from Montreal, so and it was El Generico. They're similar, but Sami Zayn was the president of the El Generico fan club in Montreal.
That's true.
So
yeah, so that might be an influence there. Yeah, but yeah, the cannonball is the new sharpshooter in Canada, and I think it was evidence in this show. Quite a few of the moments, I think, of quite a few of the guys, even an assisted cannonball we had. We had variations as well. Like that was definitely something to point out. But yeah, that was Smash Wrestling. A fun promotion, an interesting promotion, and we kind of just summed it all up with our thoughts. I think that's another fantastic episode of the Fanny Pack Wrestling Podcast.
PD Rave, old buddy and pal. PD Rave, feel free to take it home.
Yes. Let's ask around. JVeezy, what do you got going on the internet?
Nothing. I mean, don't really follow me on Twitter. I'm not going to follow back.
JVeezy is not team follow back.
Nah.
JVeezy is what we call a civilian in all of this.
Yes.
Yeah. Daryl, what do you got going on the internet?
I have quite a few things going on, I suppose. Of course, I'm on Twitter at DARYLSURAT. Currently editing the next episode of the Anime World Order podcast over at www.animeworldorder.com. I talk about Japanese cartoons there, maybe not of necessarily of interest to folks listening to this podcast, but it is part of the A3K network, and the A stands for something around here, right? So
I'm not
there's
familiar.
that. I've got Otaku USA Magazine, new issue of that. It just came out. I did the cover story for that one, as well as a few other pieces for it, and I'm writing the next of that one. Every Thursday at 8, since I've decided that SmackDown isn't worth watching, and you know SmackDown isn't worth watching either, because anything on there that happens of note will be replayed. That's when I am picking 2 hours worth of noteworthy professional wrestling matches to my liking, where I live in a world where average isn't good enough for me, so everything I pick is, in my opinion, worthwhile. So I post links to that on my Twitter as well. And I guess lately I'm dipping my toe into this whole Twitch thing. I haven't really gone full bore into that because the overhead for it's a little too high as far as the time investment. But hey, we've got the microphones and we've got the webcams, so we may as well do something with this thing, right? So yeah, I'll probably post links to that, and I also am actively curating a Steam group, Anime World Order, as well. So I'm doing a bunch of random crap that is of varying degrees of importance, but mostly putting off podcasting.
Yes. DJ M, what's going on over at Delta Julian Mike?
Well, coming up tomorrow, as soon as I'm done editing it, right after we're done here, a brand new episode of the flagship podcast, Shooting the Shit with Two Nerdy Black Guys with myself and Brandon Cooper, PD Rave's co-host on Hallyu-Juku. Along with that, you will see me on the A3K podcast Saturday nights, powered by Anime3000.com. Sean Russell still thinks it's a good idea that I host that show. Along with that, the Nanashi Anime podcast with my good buddy Lily Inverse. Coming up at OhioCon 2015, we're going to be talking all about panty and stocking with garter belt.
You don't like that one?
We'll tune into the Nanashi Anime podcast.
Until then, all on the interwebs at deltajulietmike.com.
Yes. You can follow me at PD Rave. PD is in Williams, Rave is in Jimmy, all in one word. You can follow the show at fannypackwrestling.com, rebelli.net for this and the other shows. This week's record breakers, Deep Purple, this Tuesday. Deep Purple, Machine Head. So that's going to be a really cool talk. That's it. Also, Hallyu-Juku. I talk about everything, where we talk about everything but anime. So I cover all the other stuff over at Hallyu-Juku, kpoppodcast.com. That's it. Fanny Pack Wrestling. Another one in the can. Of course, before I let y'all go, I have, since again, Sunday nights, Chinese food night. So I have your fortune cookie for the week. First, learn to give, and then the universe will reward you.
In your pants.
Yes. That's it. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Beans and disease, everybody.
I have no pithy sign-off.
And that is a damn show.
Bye, live audience. I'll see you all there.